So one of my other jobs, if you will, is that I'm also a senior scientist at Gallup organization. So I'm sure you've heard of Gallup. You know, they do polls, surveys. And so a few years ago, we said, let's start doing collecting data on well-being, okay? So we started with very simple things. We first divided well-being into 5 categories: career well-being, social well-being, physical and emotional well-being, financial well-being, and community well-being. These are the 5 categories we started with. So, and it's very simple. We take surveys. There are 2,000 people designing these studies, and Gallup has perfected the art of taking questions, and, you know, they're the best people as far as designing studies to ask questions. So first thing was career well-being. And we asked a very simple question. Do you love what you do every day? Do you love your job? Only 20% of the people in the world said yes. 80% dislike what they do every day. In the world, and there are differences, you know, there are differences between, say, Chad and Denmark and Sweden, but average 20%. Only 20% people love their jobs. The other statistic was that more people die in our civilization on Monday morning at 9 o'clock than any other time. No other animal knows the difference between Monday and Tuesday. This is an extraordinary accomplishment for which only the human species can take credit. Okay. We die on Monday mornings of heart attacks at 9 o'clock. And the biggest sickness is time sickness. Everybody is running out of time. Okay? And they have speeded up biological clocks. They have faster heart rates, jittery platelets, higher blood pressure, dropping dead of heart attacks. Time has run out. Okay? Because they're saying to themselves, I have no time. Okay. Tagore had a relationship with eternity. If I have time, I would love to read 1 or 2 of his poems on the timeless experience. So that's one statistic. The other statistic was, these are very practical things. If you are working in an environment where your supervisor or manager or whatever ignores you, your rate of disengagement goes up by 45%, and within 3 or 4 months, you start to get sick. Because nothing that happens in the mind doesn't have a biological correlate. 45%, it goes up. If your manager or supervisor doesn't ignore you, but criticizes you, you get better. Your rate of disengagement goes down to 20% because you would rather be criticized than ignored. See, when you're ignored, you don't exist. When you're criticized, at least now I'm acknowledging that you exist, so you get better, 20% down. If, on the other hand, your supervisor, manager, not only notices you, but acknowledges a single strength that you have, your rate of disengagement goes down by less than 1%, and your physical health improves. This is data that is proved now. We've done it many times. So, obviously, you know, why don't we correct this situation? In the US alone, we estimate in Gallup that disengaged and actively disengaged workers, actively disengaged are people who are unhappy, but they come to work with the express intention of making other people unhappy. Okay? Between the active and disengaged, the annual cost in the US alone, I don't know the figures from elsewhere, is $380 billion. Okay, and it all means, you know, Gallup says you find the right environment to work in and use your strengths and be in your dharma, as we would say. Okay, and you're all set. Can we not create those environments? And that's another part of our Gallup work, that we evaluate people's strengths. So I can sit down with you for 2 hours, and you can do it on the computer. If you want, you can go to Strength Finders on Gallup, and you will find out the 5 things that you're really passionate about. Then spend your life doing that and create an environment where everybody notices the great strengths of each other, and actually helps each other, and everything improves. Health improves, productivity improves, well-being in general improves. And there's a lot more to say about this, but let me move to the second thing, which is social well-being. Social well-being. If you have a happy friend, your happiness will go up by 15%. But if your happy friend has a happy friend that you don't know, it goes up another 10%. And if your happy friend has a happy friend who has a happy friend that you don't know, it keeps going up. So, and it keeps going on. 3rd degree of separation, 4th degree, 5th degree, 6th degree. So the first question we asked ourselves when we saw this, how does the happiness of people that you don't know affect your happiness? Like, you don't know these people. Okay. So you see somebody in Brighton, they're walking on the street, their happiness affects your happiness. And if it affects your happiness, it affects your well-being because your mind is entangled with your body, right? So how does that happen? And there are many ways to explain that. One, the best explanation, which is both Vedantic and comes from physics. Schrödinger said, consciousness is singular that has no plural. Okay? That's the best explanation because at the deepest level, consciousness is unified. There is no separation, what we call pure consciousness, samadhi or whatever. So just like electricity is powering my BlackBerry and this microphone and my computer and my radio and my television set, so too consciousness is downloading in everyone from the same source. Okay? So it's a singular that has no plural, and something is affected. And I was saying non-locality. If you tickle the universe here, it laughs there. If you ask a question here, it answers there because consciousness non-locally is correlated everywhere. That's the deeper questions. There's mathematics to prove that. But on a very simplistic level, if you and I are having a conversation, then of course my mind is affected by all the things that are happening in my life. If I'm concerned about my children, about my job. So actually when you and I have a conversation, it's not just you and me. It's all the people in my life and all the people in your life. We're entangled. And then they have people in their life. So, okay, so we go deeper. We see entanglement exists everywhere. So the happiness of your perceived enemies is good for your well-being. Okay? There's no getting out of it. Okay? It's good for your well-being. We go to the other areas and we have only 5 minutes left, so I just want to tell you this is what happens, okay? If you go from social well-being to physical well-being, which requires very few things like good sleep, exercise, adequate breathing, and food that doesn't come in a can or has a label, you're all set. Okay. That's physical well-being. And then there's financial well-being. Don't spend money that you haven't earned to buy things that you don't need to impress people that you don't like. It's the cause of the economic crisis. Okay. And then there's community well-being. What in India we say, seva, satsang, simran. So you combine all this. This is well-being, okay? And it's totally in your control. Then there's spiritual well-being, which addresses bigger questions. Who am I? What's the meaning of death? Does God exist? Etc., etc. The soul is the place of love, of compassion, of joy, of equanimity, of grace, of synchronicity, of everything that makes us alive and human.